It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for February 21st, 2024 for the next hour or so. Let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, Nintendo highlighted games from its partners, and Elden Ring is back to take over all of video games. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host to Game Mess Mornings. It's Lord Cognito. Cog, how are you doing today?
Lord Jeff Grubb, in the realm of the mess.
of the messy realm, absolutely. God, wait, tell people like where they can find you, where they should know you from, and all that stuff. I've been listening to your stuff for a while now, but I'm happy to have you here. Tell the kids about you.
Absolutely. So at Lord Cognito on Twitter, Lord Cognito of the Iron Lords podcast. Every Sunday is the Lord's Day on YouTube. Also do Defining Duke and a Destiny podcast called The Last Word. So, I'm all over the place. I'm podcasting a lot.
you are podcasting a lot is how I would describe it for sure. Yeah, and you guys go on. You guys have your Lord's Day podcast on Sunday. You guys go and go and go. And I'm always like, man, that is a marathon. I'm always impressed.
Yeah, man. Just 4 lifelong friends, love gaming. We talk about mostly the latest topics in gaming. 1 p.m. Eastern. We try to avoid, we were trying to avoid the Lions and the 49ers, but we just couldn't get out of that. Mm-hmm. Is it too soon? Is it too soon, Grubb? Is it too soon?
No, I have accepted what happened. I'm a real deal, lifelong Lions fan. So the idea that we were even in the conversation for any of that stuff is still very exciting to me. In a couple of years, I'll become a really toxic fan where if they're not winning, I'll be miserable. But right now, it's like, hey, they won a bunch and that rules. Yeah. So I'm good over here. I'm making do. No. Yeah.
Future's bright. I'm getting over my heartbreak period soon. But other than that, future's bright and gaming looks good right now. So yes, I'm happy.
It's looking good. All right. You know what? Let's explain what we do here because we got plenty of news. So let's just get into the show. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with the Nintendo Partner Direct Roundup. They had a Partner Direct today, February 21st. This is from My Nintendo News. The newest Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase featured games full of poignant storytelling, puzzling challenges, and blah, blah, blah. There was a lot to stand out there. I was pretty happy with this Direct, Cog. There was a lot of stuff in there for me. Not everyone's super happy. Partner Direct is always going to be hit and miss depending on which games in there get you excited or if there are any. And for some people, they're like, I am here for the big things I recognize from Nintendo, so Partner Showcase was never going to be for me. I was pretty happy with it. We can get to some of these ones that stood out, but did you get a chance to watch the Direct this morning?
I did. I get a chance to stuck it in. And for me, it was big because obviously with the news that's been going on with Xbox lately and the business update, yes. I just had a feeling, Grubb. I just had a feeling that I might see some things from Nintendo's new partners.
Yes, one of their newest, closest partners, Microsoft Xbox Gaming.
Yes. So I put the tweet out and I put a little eyeball emoji. And look, for me, I guess my thing was always about the messaging, the verbiage, how would it present? And now it makes sense. The way I looked at it is, Microsoft got ahead of it first so that it wouldn't become a complete surprise.
Correct.
To probably both bases. And then here we are. But yeah, I did get a chance. There's a lot of games that I had my eye on otherwise, though. But I thought it was a solid showcase overall. But we can get into the nitty gritty.
Yeah. So, let's start with the Xbox games. Grounded was one of the earlier ones that was in there. That I'm a little bit surprised, but Grounded is not some really tough game to run, but it's like there's simulation and it's a survival game. There's a lot of stuff to keep track of. I'm like, it seems like it might be tough to get running on the Switch. And they opened up like basically one of the first games in there. Grounded coming there, and then Pentiment got kind of stuffed into the sizzle reel, which we joked about beforehand, but like that'd be weird if they did that, and then they did that. Now, in context, it's like Pentiment is something I adore. I love that game. I think about it all the time. It's like really one of my favorites. But I understand that it's not necessarily even something that rises to the occasion of getting people excited in a Nintendo Direct that is like lower and as a partner showcase. I'm fine with accepting that. It's a niche game. But it's a really good one. I'm kind of just glad it was in a Direct at all. Hey, those are 2 games that make a lot of sense on Switch, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're perfect fits. I mean, Grounded, the art style, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the game in the backyard kind of energy.
That's right.
It looked great. It looked like it ran great. They had the playground mode. They're talking about cross play, I believe, and cross save and stuff like that, which I think is huge.
Yes.
I am concerned about, and this is no shade, but I am concerned about the communication required for grounded. That is
sure.
no
shade. The Nintendo Online app is a heaping piece of shit. It's terrible. I despise it. There's a whole video I did with Mike Minotti where we tried to use that thing, and it's just a half an hour of us dunking on that. And I don't think I've used it since. It's terrible. Everyone just uses Discord instead. So that's probably what will have to end up happening here. It is a game about hey, I'm dealing with this giant spider over here. Can you come over and help me? So you're right. That is going to be a little bit of a headache on the Switch.
Yeah, so just that aspect I was just curious about, but it's perfect. And to your point with Pentiment, man, same thing for me. That is one of my underrated gems. I came in hating on Pentiment because at first I wanted Joshua to do a bigger game.
Absolutely.
But then when I actually played the game, and I'm like, the way they're attacking this story in this specific timeline is historically accurate. The multiple perspectives and the way the story unfolds,
the way it layers together, to get the themes across about how hey, in real life we bury our history, and in our personal lives we bury our history, and what is that? What are the ramifications of that? It's a special game. God, I love Pentiment.
Down to the name, right? It's so deep. So I'm just excited that more people get a chance to experience that, because these two games, should be bigger in my opinion. So yeah, I think this is cool. These are perfect fit games to kind of jump into the Nintendo ecosystem.
And Cod, can I give you a little breaking news?
Yeah. Oh, what we got?
Hi-Fi Rush comes to PS5 on March 18th.
What? From who? Who put it? This is a Grubb exclusive?
This is Wario64 just posted this on Twitter.
Ooh, okay. We got March. Okay.
Yep. Okay. It looks like there's a trailer and some key art here that is in Spanish. So maybe this got out a little bit early from some website or something. But hey, yeah, that's happening. Hi-Fi Rush always also definitely seemed like the one that would probably be tough to get running on the Switch. So not surprised that didn't make the Direct and is coming to PS5 instead. But hey, all three of the 4 games so far are now confirmed. We're just waiting on Sea of Thieves, which might happen a little bit later. They'll probably have their own separate announcement about that. They've been getting that game ready for that. So hey, yeah, it's all lining up. And I guess, how are you feeling about Microsoft's strategy here?
I think, look, ultimately, at first I was more so upset about how are they going to handle the messaging? And obviously live service makes perfect sense. I thought anything that's live service needs to be on it. I guess I was confused initially about Hi-Fi Rush because I was like, okay, this is kind of like their new up-and-coming budding title.
Definitely.
But the way I look at it is, look, and if this is about sustainability and the way the industry is going, and they need to do this as a pivot or a shift, I'm for it in that respect. So I think the key for them is just to be transparent, which for the most part they did instead of naming the 4, but maybe that was a legal issue, but they kind of explain what the 4 are.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. As far as, future, as far as me being on the Xbox platform as a person who likes the ecosystem, it really doesn't affect me because, again, I get to play these games in Game Pass, most likely a year or a couple of months ahead of release. So it really doesn't affect me. And if more people get to experience those games, and if they didn't do well, I have to say this, girl. I have to say, my guess is that Hi-Fi Rush may not have, and actually, I got to credit you. Wait a minute. I just thought about you were the one that took the arrows for everyone.
Took some arrows. Oh, buddy, did I take some arrows for that one? Yeah, I mean, the truth, and I've never, ever gone off this story. Hi-Fi Rush cost this much, and it made about this much. That's how I put it. That's the fair way of putting it. I think at the time I said it was disappointing or something. That's not fair, because Microsoft has their own a way of measuring that goes against that, not just it's how profitable was it, selling retail copies or whatever on the digital store. That's not necessarily how they were measuring it. They have other things how it performs in Game Pass. And I know that Microsoft internally loves that game and loves that studio. What's the name of the studio now? It's blanking on
Tango
Gameworks. Thank you.
Yes.
Tango, I know they love them, and they're and that's why they were very quick to come out and counter the story. They're we don't want Tango Gameworks to think we're disappointed because we are doubling down on them. But the reality is the game cost this much, it made this much, and when they're looking around for ways to keep these studios chugging along, one of the answers being, hey, make more money from the same game you already made that people really like by putting it on PS5. Became a pretty quick answer of let's just do that for a game like that has already tapped out what it can do on Xbox and PC and Game Pass.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate your service. You took a lot of slugs. You took,
It happens.
you went in there and the life of the insider, the life of the league.
Yeah, it comes with the territory, as you said. Yes, the life of the insider, I
But
suppose.
one thing about Grubb, I got to get your percentile, your track record is strong. So
Thanks.
it's cool to see how it played out. And look, ultimately, we want Tango, we want these people to make money and make these games sustainable. And then ultimately, like the cool thing is this. What I also want to talk about is that for a whole new audience that never experienced these games, right? Now, to Xbox's benefit, if they decide to do a Hi-Fi Rush 2 or a sequel, there is now familiarity. Now people know what that is on
I
these
think that's
other
exactly
platforms
what's happening here. Yeah.
to generate interest. So I am coming along. I was struggling in the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I have a Nintendo fanboy podcast. If Nintendo was suddenly talking about this stuff, I would be confused and maybe even like as a lifelong fan, and this is childish, I think, in my opinion of myself, but I think I would be a little bit hurt and be like, what is happening here? And I would process it, and I think I would end up in the same place you are, where it's like, how does this really affect me? More people are playing these games. Who cares? It would just take me like a day or two to process that. So I completely understand.
Yeah, and the final point I'll say on it was just that, for me, from a Microsoft standpoint, I just wanted them to see the vision through of once they made the acquisitions of Bethesda and ABK, how does that look,
Right.
and does that improve Game Pass? And I think this strategy allows them to still do that while putting these other games that are maybe older on other platforms, and I'm okay with it now.
And I think at the time it was when people were first like getting really worried about what was happening here. They were like, that was something I heard from a lot of people. I just want those like 2018 acquisitions to have a chance to come and do what they're going to do to see if that can work before we start abandoning everything. And my point was always, I think internally they're looking at the games that are coming and being like, nothing is going to have the potential to move the needle like Starfield did. So why are we pretending that something's going to be as big as that? And that wasn't as big as we needed. So I think they were just immediate like, okay, let's look at what we're doing and change some things up, even though obviously they're mostly sticking to the same strategy that they've been having. All right, back to the direct. Some things that stuck out to me. Disney Epic Mickey Rebrushed. I am not someone that ever played Epic Mickey. I know people mostly found that game to be disappointing, but this looked pretty good, especially since it seems like it's a updated in multiple ways where it looks much better than the Wii game did, and at the same time seems like they could have a chance to edit what the game was and improve it in some ways. That's always what I think is a cool thing with video game remasters. Is this happens with the Zelda games where they're like, hey, we're gonna just like make this section that you guys thought was kind of a slog a little bit shorter, and now it's edited and now it's a much better game, even though we're gonna call it the same exact game. And hopefully they can do that here. But what's especially interesting is I had heard about this. And I heard about it alongside the news that Metroid Prime 4 might get some sort of CG trailer that pops off this summer. And I was kind of been like holding off on this, like waiting to see if some more things would get confirmed from this set of leaks I got from this source. And now multiple things have been confirmed. And I'm like, okay, I'm feeling a little bit better about Metroid Prime 4 popping off this summer. So yeah, it was like, okay, wow, Rebrushed is here and it's real. So there we go. And then Penny's Big Breakaway, that game looks fantastic to me. I'm a huge 3D platformer fan, Cog. I don't know. Did that set off any bells for you?
Yeah, it looked cool. It looked cool, man. I'm not like a big connoisseur of the series and stuff like that, but I thought what I saw looked good on screen. I didn't really have many complaints. I thought this was one of the ones that I'm like, okay. I had about like 5, and that was definitely in the list. I was like, okay, that got my eye.
And we talked about the Xbox games coming to Switch, and we saw like, well, there's 2. There's actually 7 if you count the 5 rare games that are coming to Nintendo Switch Online. That includes Killer Instinct, Battletoads, and Battle Maniacs, Snake, Rattle and Roll, and RC Pro-Am, and I think there was one. Of course, Blast Core. So yeah, I'm excited about all those. I'm a huge fan of Rare. Blast Core is one of my favorite games. So that's really cool to see. People are like wondering, hey, where the hell is like stuff like Donkey Kong 64? That one is one that seems like it would make a lot of sense. I wonder, like, hey, where's Diddy Kong Racing? And,
yes.
Do you buy into the theory that the reason we're not seeing those announced at something like a Nintendo Direct for Nintendo Switch Online is because maybe we'll get full-fledged remasters of those sold separately, or maybe even like remakes?
I mean, one would hope so, right? I mean, because it seems like curious omissions, right? Yeah, so part of me is like, I'm hoping the teams already have these set aside for these plans. I would love the remasters of these. People have been screaming these for the rooftops for so long. So yeah, I'm leaning on that direction for sure.
I think it's possible that like Diddy Kong Racing gets that kind of treatment. I think Donkey Kong 64 is such a massive game that even remastering it might be troublesome. But I don't know. Nintendo has control of those games as well. Like that's a joint that like Rare made them, but I don't think Rare has any sort of say in those games anymore because they would have given up the copyright when they went over to Microsoft. So I wonder if these are like these games, these 5 games are like, yeah, Rare and Microsoft have control and they're making deals here. And they're like, yeah, why not just throw those into Nintendo Switch Online as part of hey, here's Grounded and here is Pentiment. Maybe that makes some sense. And then Nintendo's like, well, we're going to do Donkey Kong stuff when we're ready to do Donkey Kong stuff. But yeah, I do think it's a notable omission. It does stand out. It makes you think, where are those games? And maybe they have bigger plans for them.
I agree.
Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection, kind of a surprise. This is a new fully online version, a new collection of and fully online version of those classic Battlefront games from the PS2 era. And people are very excited about these games. I always kind of played them, was like, oh, this is fine, and moved on pretty quickly. But I know a lot of people who are much younger than me, about 10 years younger than me or so, who adore these games, and they always yell at me and be like, no, these are some of the best games of all time. And so I'm going to play it again, Cog, and we'll see. Do you have any love for the Battlefront series?
Me and you are in the same pocket. I get it.
Well, yeah, we're gentlemen. We're men of a certain age. Yeah.
I'm like, look, I get it. That wasn't me, but I understand the impact of those titles. I remember when they dropped it, how people were going crazy down to 64 players and just the epic scale and taking your character off and all that. Like, I get it. So to see that on, Nintendo Switch, super dope. That's a big get.
I'm going to read off some of these other titles, and I'll stop if something like strikes my fancy. You could do the same. Sure. Let me know. South Park Snow Day is that first person, or maybe it's third person, I don't know, but it's a 3D shooter kind of game based on South Park. Another Crab's Treasure, which I played at Summer Game Fest. It is sort of a underwater Pixar FromSoft game, and that's actually a good time. I really enjoy what I played of it. Contra Operation Galuga.
That's me.
Yes, I'm hoping this is a good Contra. We get some bad ones, and I'm really hopeful that this is going to play good. Play well, I should say. This one, chat and help me out. Is this the developer? Did we find out if this was Inti Creates or Way Forward? Because either one would be pretty good. I hope this one is actually a solid Contra. Pepper Grinder is another sort of indie game that looks like has a ton of potential. Looks like the old Drill Dozer game for the Game Boy Advance, which was a Game Freak game. Contra is Way Forward. Okay, that's very encouraging. Way Forward has put out some great games. They have a B team as well, but Way Forward's very good. Suika Games getting multiplayer mode expansion DLC. Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble. I'm excited about that because the last Super Monkey Ball didn't have online multiplayer. It was kind of a pain in the ass that we couldn't do the party modes online, especially since that game came out like kind of during the pandemic. And it's like now years later, we're getting this. And it's like, man, this would have been perfect back in like 2021. But hey, I'm not complaining. Glad we're getting this. Not that I'm complaining. You get it. Pocket Card Jockey, the version that got released on Apple Arcade is now finally coming back to a Nintendo platform. And then Unicorn Overlord is the last one I'm going to call out. That's from Vanillaware. More Vanillaware games should be on Steam and Switch. But hey, at least we're getting the new one. And this continues to look pretty cool. Tactical fantasy RPG with that awesome Vanillaware artwork.
Looks really cool. Really look nice. Absolutely.
Anything else you want to call out from the Direct before we move on?
Yeah, I had about 5 for me. I want to shout out what is it? I believe it's called Ender.
Yes, not Ender Lilies. It's
Ender Magnolia.
Yes, Ender Magnolia. Bloom in the Mist is the full name. Yes,
like the art style there, and I like that you kind of beat the enemies. They kind of work with you as companions and stuff like that. I thought that was dope. Zao, the EA original from Tales of Kinsera.
Tales of Kinsera, Zao.
Yeah, it was cool to see them. I'm pulling from. I believe he was at the Game Awards, and kind of like an emotional tribute to his father. In addition to kind of giving me like Ori mixed with Black Panther Wakanda vibes.
Sure, that's right. That is this game, and that does have a striking look. It's that's out April 23rd. They confirmed.
Yes, and then another one towards the end, as far as they kind of rushed through. This was right during the Pentiment sizzle reel stuff. I thought Kingdom Come Deliverance was a big deal.
Has that version? That's a new version. Has Kingdom Come been on Switch before? I thought it might have been. But at the very least, it's like, oh yeah, that reminds me, Kingdom Come is still this like really big RPG that has actually continued to grow, and they're still supporting it. And I'm not like necessarily surprised by that, but it was just nice to be refreshed in my memory that they're still working on that game.
Yeah, I think that the same thing for me, because I had forgot about it. I remember when the announcement that they were going to do it, but I'm like, this is an ambitious put. That is a huge game.
Yeah.
It's like realistic Skyrim, and they did well. So shout out to Warhorse and those guys. But yeah, it was cool to see that that's still coming along. And Shin Megami Tensei, I thought,
5
looked really cool. Yeah, and there was one more. It was like a kind of like a RTS kind of game. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It was like a RTS side scroll. The artwork looked really cool.
There is a Ranger, a role-playing Avenger. There's a Gundam Breaker, Fantasy Life I, Sword Art Online, Snufkin Melody of Moomin Valley, Demon Slayer. Let's see if there's anything else we missed.
Can't remember the name.
There's the artwork. There's the Unicorn Overlord is like the tactical.
Lordly, sword and shield kind of. Yeah,
that's what you think. Yes, Unicorn Overlord. It's always looked shit hot, and it looked even better here. So I've been very excited about that one. Yes, that's definitely one worth calling out.
Absolutely.
All right. Make sure I didn't miss any detail. Oh yeah, Penny's Big Breakaway is out today. They announced that was a big surprise. There was those Nintendo Switch Online games are also coming today. And there was another, Pocket Card Jockey was the other one dropping today. Stuff like Super Monkey Ball's June 25th. Some of these other ones are like a month or 2 or 3 away. But yeah, overall, I was pretty happy with the Direct up until I found out that in Japan, they got Mother 3 added to the Nintendo Switch Online. And we're not getting that here. Now I'm someone who has, I think I appreciate Earthbound and Mother from a distance, but I'm like, this is going to be the year I'm going to actually give it a real shot to get into those games. And I would have really liked to have Mother 3 right there to make it a big deal where it's like, oh, everyone's playing this. And now I can hop into that and play it alongside everybody. But maybe never going to happen. I don't know.
Yeah, it don't feel like it's happening. You got to make that other account there, sir.
Yes, I gotta log back into it's just Jeff Japan, which is what it's called on my Switch. Yeah,
I got mine called Conk Japan. You explain?
Yeah, you get it. Yeah, again, exactly.
I do the same thing.
Oh man, I haven't used it in forever. I forget what game I even got. Maybe did I use it to get Suika game? I don't think so. I think I waited for the English version. All right, let's keep moving along here. Elden Ring's first expansion trailer confirms a June release date. This is from Tom the Machine Ivan at VGC. Bandai Namco and From Software have released the debut trailer for Elden Ring's highly anticipated expansion, Shadow of the Erdtree. Viewable now online, it confirms a June 21st release date in this year for PS5, PS4, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. Sometimes I forget that game came out on Xbox One and PS4, and that's still coming out to Xbox One. That's going to run on the VCR Xbox One. That's a little bit wild to me.
The old school joint.
Old school joint. Yeah. You an Elden Ring guy?
I'm not, but I respect the power of that game.
Yeah. That's a good way of describing it.
Listen, I'm too old to go through that level of stress in my life at this point. But I respect y'all, because here's the thing. Like the fact that they translate it into that open world, and then you can take on and tackle challenges the way you want. I did try it. It's not for me, but I understand the appeal. And this is a highly anticipated expansion. People have been waiting for a long time. Yes. And I'm proud of the success of it. Like I don't think they realized what they had, and then when you just seen it explode, it was clearly
they're just doing their thing, right? They were just doing their thing, and they knew that it was like a good game. They make good games, but I don't think they were necessarily prepared. I don't think they've said as much for it to become like the TikTok trend that it became, where it's just like everyone is talking about it and everyone has comment on it and all these celebrities were playing it. It's like, that was not predictable. And so to be in the situation where we've been waiting for this DLC for a while, we've known about it. We knew from the beginning they were going to have DLC, but they even said Shadow of the Erdtree more than a year ago now. I think so it's been a long time since we've been like anticipating this. Got to the point where it's like, man, this is taking a little bit longer. I think expectations are very high for this in terms of the amount of content and like what's possible in it. And I think they're setting it up like, this is basically like going to be a mini sequel built right into the game. Now, a lot of their DLC does like rise up to that level, but I think this is going to be even bigger than any one of those, just by the nature of what Elden Ring is.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, this is huge, man. And shout out to the Souls community. It's so cool to see the genre get the love that it get and almost become mainstream now. Like
Oh yeah.
it was, always I felt like this niche thing that the hardcore used to do and challenge themselves and push themselves. And now you see more of the casuals kind of gravitating towards it. And I think that's super cool.
Yeah, and it's From Software gets a lot of the credit, rightfully so, for showing people that this is a viable way of making games where it's like, hey, we're going to prioritize animation and there is value in that. It's not all about twitchy, just I press the button and something happens right away. It's like, no, you're kind of engaged in this relationship with this game, and that means sort of a partnership, and that's going to come through in the way the game feels. And they have stuck with that for years to the point where it's like everyone is now on board with that way of thinking. And that's impressive to me because I think a lot of publishers got scared off for years because a lot of publishers and developers were making games that felt this way. I think like Lost Planet is one that's getting some like love right now. Now, Lost Planet is no From Software game. It just isn't. But it has similar ideas in there. And people are like revisiting that like, oh, okay, well, I do like that kind of thing now. Maybe it's time for us to get more of that. And we'll see. Now, going in and be like, hey, I'm going to make a game like From Software today might be a crazy thing to try to pull off, and a lot of developers can't quite do it. But
yeah, it's a little saturated.
Yeah, that audience, though, bigger than ever. Bigger than ever.
Absolutely.
Elden Ring's Shadow of the Erdtree, again, coming June 21st. When is that Horizon MMO or DLC coming? Is there more Horizon stuff for this to overshadow? Because that just continues to happen with Horizon. So
they better move their date, Grubb. They better
just move it, right? Just get out of there. Save yourself.
2 times now.
We say that, but the Horizon's like the best-selling PlayStation game of all time. So it actually hasn't ever heard it, but it's on March 21st on PC. Okay, so it has plenty of time. There we go. Congratulations to Horizon.
Breath of the Wild got them the first time when they came.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
You got to be careful. Move your date. Keep your ego out of it. And get the most revenue if you can.
Excellent. All right. You know what? Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We got plenty more to talk about. We'll get to all of that right after this.
Hello.
Hey, Mike. What's up?
What's up, Mike?
Hey, how's it going? Sorry. I just thought it was really that Hi-Fi Rush trailer was released by.
Let's do this as part of the show real quick.
Okay.
All right, hey, we're back and we're joined by special guest Mike Minotti. Mike, what do you got to say?
Well, so that Hi-Fi Rush PlayStation 5 announcement only happened because the Latin America Bethesda account released the trailer.
Yeah.
Accidentally, and it since has already been privated. I'm wondering what's going on there. Maybe I'm reading into it. It sure seems like that trailer was supposed to go up because a Switch version was going to be announced. And then that got pulled and not everybody got the memo. I don't know, Jeff. Maybe I'm reading into things. I'll let you ruminate on that. You both have a good one.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility. I mean, he's right about the timing, right? Because that's how, just the way these things are processed, where you get the video, you get it uploaded, you're waiting for the direct to happen, and then you just schedule it out. Yeah, maybe. I mean, it also could be coincidence. It wasn't in the direct, but no, maybe there's something there. You think like Hi-Fi Rush is like maybe they are struggling to get it running on the Switch and like that. Let's just hold off until we know it's good. What do you think?
It's a good one, man, because like you said, I mean, obviously we knew about the assets behind the scenes, and we knew that obviously the different shirts indicated the platforms that Mr. Chai was going to be on. So it's a good question. If I had to guess, gun in my head, I'm just gonna say it's not ready yet. Maybe from a technical standpoint, it may not be ready. It just need a little bit more time, or they just haven't finalized the release date. But it is strange because you would think that the splash would have happened in conjunction with Pentiment and Grounded.
Grounded, yeah.
So I don't know what's your thought process here. What do you think? Are you thinking is it more technical, or do you thinking it's like legal? Like what you think going on here? Like why did it not show?
Yeah, if I would zoom out and I was like, okay, what do I really think is happening? I think it's probably coincidence, but I think it's at least worth noting what Mike said, that things did line up. And a lot of times that could be, a little bit of smoke, a little bit of fire. I don't think it's necessarily happening here, but it's a possibility.
Interesting.
At the very least, it's the date on that is March 18th. That is less than a month out. So really if it was never supposed to get announced at the direct, where was it supposed to show up? And like, are we going to see that like later today or later this week, or does Sony have another small little thing? I mean, who knows? They just had God, they did just have a state of play, right?
They just had a state of play.
Yeah,
Yeah, they did. They had a state of play. That's my next question for you on the follow up, because I was curious as far as the PlayStation version and how that would be introduced. Is it something that Nintendo's being that it lined up most likely with this partner showcase, that they figured maybe they would give it then? Maybe that was the initial plan. But I'm just curious, like, will PlayStation ever get to announce any of these Xbox games, studio games on their stage?
I think Microsoft would be completely fine with that. And I think that the people who would have been like, I'm not so sure about that, namely Jim Ryan, he's like already 1 foot out the door, ready for retirement. He's technically still there. He's technically still there, but Totoki is the current person running it, and there's a reason we hear from him more these days than we ever hear from Jim Ryan. And I think Totoki would be like, yeah, that's fine. Like, don't we have a bunch of partnerships with Microsoft for like the cloud and all these things and Azure, and you're just another partner like any other. Of course you can be in there. You're going to sell games on here. We get a cut of that money. That sounds great to me. So I think that he would be completely fine with that. But maybe I'm misreading it. I don't know the guy. To answer your question, I think so. But what does Sony have coming up like that anytime soon? If they have like a PlayStation showcase, that probably does happen in the early summertime, late springtime, and we're still a ways off from that.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of the Sony president, he wants Bungie to be better at assuming accountability for development timelines. This is from Chris Scullion at VGC. Cog, I'm glad you're here for this one. Sony president and PlayStation chairman Hiroki Totoki has said Bungie could be better at assuming responsibility for its development timelines. During a Q&A session following Sony's latest financial results briefing, Totoki was asked for an update on Bungie and whether he had any initiatives planned for the studio in the next financial year. Totoki replied that while he was impressed by Bungie's ability as a video game developer, he felt it could make improvements from a business perspective. I visited the Bungie studios and had meetings with the management, and I saw that employees working at the studio were highly motivated, showing great creativity as well as an impressive knowledge of live services. However, I also felt that there was room for an improvement from a business perspective with regards to areas such as the use of business expenses and assuming accountability for development timelines. I hope to continue the dialogue and come up with some good solutions. Now, there's a little bit more here, but you're someone that's steeped in the Destiny community. Does what Totoki is saying here encourage you, or are you worried about it, or what is the reaction?
Man, I'm glad I'm here because this is definitely a topic that I'm so conflicted on. Here's the thing, as a lifelong Destiny fan, Bungie fan, Halo fan, I followed the studio from the very beginning, and to see where there are all the different iterations and relationships they've had, Microsoft, Activision, the whole thing, and to see where they are now with Sony. So I'll say this, look, Destiny clearly missed their internal targets, what is it, about 45%, and thus Final Shape had to be delayed, which is their huge expense. They're really banking on this because of the failure that is Destiny Lightfall. Did not hit. It was definitely, the narrative was not strong, and they lost a lot of player base. Also, during the time, the frustration of the player base, they felt they were being over monetized, and now we understand why. They needed that revenue, they needed that income to come in. So now that the timelines are missed, to me, when I hear Pete Parsons from CEO of Bungie, and now I hear Totoki, this gives me the impression that they are going to tighten ship here. And the reality is this, from my understanding, the way the board is constructed with Bungie, if they continue to miss targets, they're at risk of having their board dissolved and having Sony retain, ownership of that. And that is something, based on what I know from Bungie, that is something they do not want. Independence.
They are desperate to avoid that. Yes.
Exactly.
They're in a situation where it might not be avoidable. It's rough.
And that's the scary part, because it may be out of their control. And here, the other thing about Hiroki, that's why I was laughing when you're reading, is he just recently made this similar statement when going through all of PlayStation Studios, talking about an aggressive PC push. It's almost like, hey, you guys are great people. You're motivated. you work hard, but about these profits, though.
About my money.
This is what you get when the CEO, the financial guys get in there and they want to maximize profit. So that's what I see here. And look, I'm pulling for them. I'm pulling for Bungie hardcore. They taken more time to get the Final Shape. It's now delayed till June.
Yes.
We'll see what happens. But
it was going to come out like in about a week, right?
Yes, that's the crazy thing. And the way I'm happy because now I get a chance to play Final Fantasy VII Remake, Rebirth, without my Destiny addiction around it. So I like that part, but I'm worried because it's like if it doesn't hit, what happens, right?
Yeah,
and they're in an inflection point. This is very serious for Bungie, so I'm pulling for them, but we'll see what happens. This is Hiroki's world right now, and I'm seeing the groundwork being laid on how things are going to get run.
Yeah, so I mean, and what you're speaking to there is like the real concern for Bungie, and Bungie came into the Sony project here where it was like, we are going to have our control, and that is like baked in. We are actually not even a PlayStation company. We're a Sony company. And that is like a distinction that they remind PlayStation about frequently. And now that has had to get quieted down a little bit because the money's gone away for the most part. And so now they're looking like, oh shit, like we need help from Sony. And we can't, that means PlayStation, and we can't be throwing our weight around so much anymore. So they're already losing some of that swagger that they came in with. Now, swaggers, what is that? But like control, the board of directors that does act as a line of demarcation between Bungie and Sony and then PlayStation. You're right, could evaporate in a moment if they don't meet certain metrics, and that is, yeah, right. We don't know what that looks like, but as it stands right now, they're in desperation mode, trying to make sure that this next thing hits.
And to add on, the other concern, a lot of friends of mine who are fans of Bungie, is that it's kind of a dual role, because not only do they have to worry about their IPs themselves and the success of Destiny and then obviously Marathon, but then you are now the advisor to their live service portfolio, which is a huge undertaking, right? And some people call it brain drain. Are they being, are their resources enough for them to be able to do both things efficiently? Right. And that's the question. And again, I'm hoping I'm pulling for, but I did hear rumors that they assisted with Helldivers too, but I'm not sure. I got to dig deeper into that.
I wouldn't be surprised at that. I mean, from the beginning, like when that was first announced, even before Sony came out and said what they were doing, I'm like, this is about them coming in, having someone that actually made a live service game, teaching everyone else how to do it. It was so clear from the very beginning. So every project that has even a little bit of live service stuff going on, I am sure that Bungie got involved in some way. It's definitely what I've heard from people that are there. And it's like, does that affect Bungie's core competency about them taking care of their projects? I would hope not, but who knows? We'll see. I mean, in terms of timelines, just real quick on that. Do you feel like the games, the updates for Destiny are coming out at a clip that you're happy with, or do you think them advancing that timeline would be very beneficial to you as a player?
Well, it's beneficial for them to take as much time that they need to make Final Shape right. Final Shape needs to hit in the manner that Taken King hit and Forsaken hit. Those are their special moments where they really got it together. As far as the current updates right now, they're in a tough spot because everyone knows there's a delay, so player count is down until the big expansion comes out. And then you've got all these rival games right now that's just killing it. We see Helldivers out here. We see Power World out here. The competition is so intense. It's not like back in the day where they were kind of like the sole console MMO, thing in town, and they were able to get away with the goodwill. The main problem is this, Jeff, is that Bungie has one of the best communities I've ever seen. I'm talking about loyal, diehard. And what happened recently was a breaking point. And that's the first time I've seen content creators say, hey, I don't know.
Looking at it from the outside, I had never seen it go that hard, where it was like, no, we actually are moving on from this. It's like, that was surprising.
That was surprising. So again, I'm pulling for them. One thing about Bungie, I'll say this in their defense. They're kind of like that kid who kind of coasts through school. He just, he gets a little 65, he gets, C's in here, he just gets by. But when it's time for final report card or final market period, he aces it. So I'm hoping they continue their magic where it's like up, down. And this is
Bungie
now
sounds a lot like a Jeff Grubb to me. Hell yeah. Now I'm rooting for him.
We was that kid. I was that kid too. I was good.
Homework. I'm not doing homework. You kidding me? Give me that test. No problem.
When it comes to that final, we on.
now's my time to shine. That's right.
Exactly.
All right. Well, let's stick with the Sony news in Totoki. Sony is likely to launch a PS5 Pro this year, according to analysts. This is from Tom the Machine Ivan at VGC. A number of games industry analysts have reportedly said they're expecting Sony to launch a PlayStation 5 Pro console later this year. It was recently claimed that the platform holder is planning to release a PS5 Pro console in late 2024, and that it will feature a proprietary DLSS-like solution. A bunch of analysts are saying this, and I think coming out of that most recent financial report, things begin to line up where it's like, oh yeah, they probably will do that. There's a couple of reasons. The big thing that stands out to me, Cog, is that when you look at that financial report and they talk about revenues being way up, not being able to sell as many PS5s as we want, but we really got hurt on profits because we discounted the PS5 in a lot of places to sell as many PS5s as possible. Well, now you're going into next year and you're not going to be able to sell as much because a lot of people that were waiting for a sale already jumped on those sales. So things are going to be tough unless you could do two things. Up that average sales price by putting out a PS5 Pro. That is very likely going to be $600. And, you know, the subhead there is that sets up next gen to be either $600 or more, because now you got people used to that. So that is part of that stepping up that ladder. That is what's happening there. Also, keeping the average sales price high is going to help them. But also putting out a new PS5 Pro, it works. It's the Nintendo method for generations now. Hey, there's a sucker out there called Jeff Grubb, and there's a lot of people like him. If we put out a slightly different model, he's going to buy that hardware again, and then he's either going to hand his old one to a friend or to a cousin, or he's going to sell it on the secondary market for a lot less money, and that's going to create new users by charging the same person again, so that hardcore audience will show up for it. And that is something that also seems like would be of great benefit to PlayStation at the moment, because what this all goes back to, and this is part of what the concern about them, hey, Bungie, we're worried about how much money you're making is, Phil Spencer just said it in one of these interviews. The console industry hasn't really grown in about 6 years. It is the same number of people spending about the same amount of money. And at a certain point, you have two options. You can either make more money from those people by coming up with ways to, you know, fleece them with nickel and diming them with DLC or microtransactions, or by putting out hardware that's more expensive, or you can grow the audience. And Sony's in a situation where, like, I think they're like, well, right now we have to make more money from the people that are like our most diehard fans. And so here we are, PS5 Pro, very likely for this year. What do you think?
You nailed it. I'm in complete alignment. I think that, you know, this definitely answers that question. Obviously, they're not happy with a lot of the internal targets that they did not hit from console and revenue. And look, you know, I'm kind of the same person too. Like you give me a PS5 Pro that allows you to hit maybe 60 frames in a lot of these games, or, you know, in conjunction with an upcoming, you know, Grand Theft Auto, even though it's not coming out this year, but next year, that'll be a big release to kind of tie it. I don't know if they'll be able to get the marketing rights for that, but that would be huge to associate that platform with it. Yeah. But I think it makes sense. I mean, this is, to me, PlayStation is at that point where they're just the brand dominant entity, and people look at them the way you look at Apple. Like I know people like, this is an Apple home. We don't have Android. Yes, like, you know, like I know that guy, right? So it's like, definitely, you know, PlayStation is at that point, and they're counting on that brand strength to get people to buy it. And then this will be a premium product, $600. So DLSS excites me. You know, I like the techniques and stuff that you utilize there for getting more performance out of these consoles. I'm curious to see how, when, you know, the digital foundries and everyone gets a hold of these, you know, PS5 versus PS5 Pro, you know, comparisons, how much of a jump it does. Yeah. But yeah, this is on schedule. The rumors have said, you know, stated this, but in order for them to kind of accelerate their financial, they're hoping for this thing to really hit big and the people to double dip, triple dip, or, you know, get into this ecosystem with a new product. So we'll see how they handle it. I'm curious to see, though, games around the window, because I also believe Hiroki Totoki made a statement stating that, hey, no more first party games coming out for like the
first party from existing, not even second half of the year, for the whole upcoming fiscal year from April of this year through March of next year. They will not have any franchise sequels, basically. So new AAA games from existing franchises. That does not discount, hey, Blue Point's got a new IP coming. Maybe that comes out this year. But that, or, you know, there's a number of things that could happen. I keep saying I hear about Astro. I hear more and more about a new Astro game coming. That probably lines up with the launch of new hardware, since that's what they always do with Astro. But man, please just make that a real game. They'll have something. But it is, you're right. They're definitely like looking around for, man, we got to make some waves here one way or the other, because we're not going to have the next Naughty Dog game. And we're not even going to have the next like Ghost of Tsushima game.
Oh,
so
that's my part right there. I love
yeah.
it. Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I want to see how they navigate that. Sony is usually clever with third-party exclusive kind of deals to kind of tie that
like Harry Potter,
association.
like the obvious example there, right? Where they're like, people just associated that with PlayStation 5 to such an aggressive extent that it was like kind of a really impressive moment of marketing, how they were able to pull that off, and it was the right game at the right time to sell a lot of that stuff. So yeah, I think that PlayStation's going to keep looking at opportunities like that. Not that there's a million of those out there. There aren't. So yeah,
absolutely. No, I agree.
For Microsoft, we already kind of know they're not going to respond with their own Xbox Pro model. Now, I am not super concerned about that for one reason. I have one. It's called my 4090 in this machine. I'm good.
You good.
It plays all those games, so I'm good.
Yes.
But the other thing is, like, Microsoft has been working on DirectX versions of machine learning to improve the way games run. And I don't necessarily think that they're going to need a pro to update a lot of that stuff to like maybe put that in to the Xbox. And maybe like they have their version of DLSS ready to go as a software update for the Xbox. And so they get a lot of that same juice without having to require you to buy new hardware. And that could look really good. Now, it won't change the calculus. People who want to get excited about new hardware are going to be more excited about new hardware. But I think this puts Microsoft in a situation where they can wait till that 2026 and then put out a new generation, then kind of way ahead of when PlayStation would be ready to put out theirs. So
now, I'm with you. Now, here's the question, Grubb. That 2026, how we looking right now? How we feeling about this?
I still feel pretty. I think that seems pretty likely. I mean, listen, it could easily go into 2027, but I think the way that they're talking about it and that they're already mentioned, the biggest technical leap and all this stuff, I think they're ready to go hard and have something that is going to replace this generation in 2026. So that would give them like about a 6-year life cycle, and I think they would be happy to move on from that at that point. It's not like they're married to their install base the way that Nintendo and PlayStation are.
That is a good point. And the way I look at it is almost like a soft reset, almost in the terms of a 360. You control the narrative. You dictate when you drop, as opposed to always dropping at the same time.
Yes.
PlayStation
They got to get out of that, right? It's a bad place to be for them.
It's not a good place. You have to dictate terms on your own and separate that. So I'm with you. And here's the key thing for me, where I do agree with your thought process as far as them not going to do a system right now. They may do like a slim or revision, like Brooklyn and all that.
Yes.
Yeah, we may see that. But as far as like upgrading the hardware, like a true next step, if 2026 happens, that makes sense. The other thing is, between now and 2026, Xbox is in a unique position. They actually have the software lineup between now and then to hold them up, as opposed to the Xbox One X days when they were just relying on the performance of outperforming the third-party games with PlayStation. I think that's going to be huge for them. Obviously, we know about the Avowed, the Hellblades, but I think my booty said 10 games this year from Xbox.
This year, and I think then he named a bunch, and he did not name 10, so there's some stuff that we don't even know about yet. I tell you, there's a one that I'm still hoping that I heard about years ago. There's a Wu-Tang game that's supposed to be like Diablo. And it's like, man, that would be really cool. Having each one of those guys be a different class, that would be very cool. But I haven't heard much about it for years. So
I need that 36 chambers.
I hope it's still happening. That would rule.
That'd be fire, Jeff.
We are sticking with Xbox news now. Xbox's strategy doesn't, quote, hinge on people moving all digital, says Phil Spencer. This is from Luis Joshua Gutierrez at GameSpot. Physical media is slowly going the way of the dodo, but it appears that Xbox isn't giving up on it just yet, despite having a discless console. In an interview with GameFile, Xbox boss Phil Spencer shared his thoughts on physical media by explaining that Xbox is supportive of physical media, but we don't have a need to drive that disproportionate to the customer demand. We ship games physically and digitally, and we're really just following what the customers are doing. And I think our job is running Xbox is to deliver on the things that a majority of the customers want. And right now, a majority of our customers are buying games digitally. Spencer then explained that gaming consoles themselves have kind of become the last consumer electronics device that have a disk drive. And this is a real issue just in terms of the number of manufacturers that are actually building drives and the cost associated with those. And when you think about cogs that were, not you, when we think about cogs that we're going to go put in a console, and as you have fewer suppliers and fewer buyers, the cost of the drive does have an impact. I didn't really think about that, but that's a good point. Yeah. You know, drives were dirt cheap for a long time because they were in everything. So the economies of scale would kick in, and now that's beginning to erode because no one's using disk drives anymore. So you got to go find the one or two suppliers that are still making them, and now they can charge a bit more because you're like, oh, you're going to buy 25 million of these over the next 5 years, and that's just for Microsoft. Okay, well, we got you a little bit here over a barrel, so we're going to take that. Now, it's probably not too expensive. I don't think these things are costing $70 per system. They're probably still like $10 to put in. Yet I think he's half telling the truth when he says we are going in the direction of where the audience is going, where the customers are, and the majority of them are buying digital. I think that happens when you sell a cheaper version that doesn't have a disk drive. That just like you like kind of encourage people to move in that direction. And we know that this is where they want to end up because it's more beneficial to them, right? So, but are you buying what Phil Spencer's here, that they're going to keep doing physical games in one way or the other for the foreseeable future?
I mean, I think it's just a matter of time before it slowly starts to phase out. I mean, we just got to be honest. Right? Yeah, we just got to be honest with the nature of it. And literally, the service that they're banking their future on with Game Pass is an all digital, service. So I see it. I get it as a person who respects game preservation. I understand the concerns overall with people who are against this, but I just think it's the way of the industry. We're from that era. We had the VHS tapes. We did the Blockbuster. I know how it is. I remember when Netflix used to come with a disc, to your house. Yeah. You put the game, remember GameFly and all that stuff. So look, I get it. I think it's ultimately a situation when Xbox tends to be clairvoyant where the industry goes. The key for them is just sometimes their messaging and maybe being too aggressive to the push. So I think that's what this is. Phil is kind of like still. They learned from the Xbox a little bit. They're not going to be super aggressive and completely stamp it out just yet. But it's clear it's a phasing out. You got to ease them into it. That's how I look at this.
It's like an interception instead of a push. Like I think the Xbox One was like, we are pushing you this direction because we are coming off the Xbox 360. We're feeling really good about ourselves. And then they realized really quickly, it's like, oh, we did not have the power to shape the market that we thought we had. So what's an alternative way to get to the same end that we want to get? Well, let's have a little bit more patience. Let's see the trends and let's go meet them there down on the far side of the timeline. And here we are on the far side of the timeline, so far removed from the launch of the Xbox One. And turns out that we kind of ended up where they thought we were going to end up anyhow. Just they could not push because people would push back. But if you're going to meet us there, we will just kind of gladly walk ourselves there. And here we are. So yeah, I agree. What physical media looks like on next gen, I'm still not really sure because I think both the PS6 and an Xbox next gen launch with like digital only, and then you buy a disc drive and then you connect.
We got that generation. You think we had the next generation?
So it seems like we are there for that. And then, which games actually get physical releases at that point? It's probably just the biggest ones, and they don't get physical releases until they know they're hits, and then they sell them as $100 collector's editions only. And so it's going to very quickly, like now that we're there, it is going to be like the straw that collapses the camel's back, and we are going to be on the other side of it. And suddenly it's like, oh, okay, only like Baldur's Gate 3 is already one where it's like that game should have a physical right on like all that stuff. So well, now you can get the collector's edition and stuff physically. Yes. So it's weird out there. It's going to keep getting weirder. But yeah. Microsoft has something for you if you don't want to own your games really in any way. Phil Spencer said at least 10% of all Xbox gaming is cloud-based at the moment. This is from Jonas Mackey at Game Reactor. Microsoft went all in on cloud gaming when this generation started, and a Game Pass Ultimate subscription makes it possible to play most of the games without the need of a PC or an Xbox. But despite the many advantages, it wasn't very popular at first, although it seems to be picking up the pace recently. In an interview with journalist Stephen Totillo, and shout out to Stephen, he did a great job with this interview, the Microsoft gaming boss Phil Spencer revealed, there was a time when we weren't deploying more server blades because we had more supply than we did demand for the server racks that we had in place. That's clearly not true today. So he goes on to say 10% of Xbox is like gaming time. I guess I'm not even sure how he measures it, but that is happening on the cloud. And he says it's growing. And maybe the key thing here is it's growing with an audience that wasn't already playing on Xbox. This is a new market for them, which is what they claim to be going after the entire time with cloud. Are you a believer at this point, Cog?
Look, this is where they want to go, and there is growth there. They are seeing it trend upwards slightly now. The key for me with them is always going to be the software. It has to be compelling software to get you on there. And then obviously the advancements in technology where we, improve the latency, substantial. So I wouldn't say like we're going to be doing these super fast Twitch, kind of game, competitive games on it.
Yeah.
But there is an audience for me. I remember there were a couple of games that came out and they were talking about how well, they were surprised how well they performed in cloud. And I think the key for them is also going to be these kind of markets, whether it be international, who may not buy the traditional console.
Right. Getting the up-and-coming nations to be like, all right, now everyone here buy a $500 console. No way.
No way, right? That's going to be huge for them. I'm very curious when now that ABK is part of the fold, and the Call of Duties and those things, the Diablos and those things are able to get into the service. How does that also affect it? Because there are a lot of household mega titles that are under that umbrella. And this is something. It's interesting that they said that there were a time they weren't deploying more cloud server blades, but that has changed now. So they must be seeing something internally on the uptick to continue to push in this direction. This is part of their pillars with cloud, mobile. This is all part of this whole vision that they're going for.
Right. And Mike's in chat. He's like, he's pretty skeptical of the cloud, and he's like, I already I don't even believe that number. He thinks 10% is too big. And I get that. I get that reaction, but you got to look in the context of this. Like the cloud is easily accessible by a vast number of people that would have never bought a console. So you literally are talking about billions of people now who have access to this, and it still only makes up 10% of the Xbox business. That it's like, oh, actually that is the number that can easily be truthful. Because it's like it was supposed to be taking off and like finding all these people that were, hey, I want to play games and I could stream this on my phone. Great. And it's like, well, it's still struggling to convince those people, even in markets like, India and that have literally 1 billion people, and China has literally 1 billion people, and they're not jumping on board of this immediately to make it like the biggest thing that Xbox has. I don't know. 10% can make sense in that context, I think.
Yeah, I get it. I completely get it.
Finally, did you see this Kingmakers game, Cog?
Not. I'm taking a look at it right now while you told me.
Yeah, I'm gonna play the trailer for everybody. Let me get that going just a second. Where did I put that? I have it over here. Basically, it starts off looking one way, and then it quickly changes into a different game. And I'm typing this into YouTube real quick. It's kind of amazing. So it looks like a Total War game or maybe a city builder. And where are you at in the trailer? Have you gotten to the turn? Yeah, your face just popped. Yeah.
I'm at the part. I'm literally at the part right now with a pickup truck, and they going through. What is it? It's like, what it reminds me of? Like cavalry with like. It's wild. This actually it's pretty cool.
It looks amazing.
Yes.
So
how many NPCs and sprites is on this?
Well, that's what it kind of looks like. Earth Defense Force, but it doesn't look like shit. It's kind of amazing. But the guy just pops out of the pickup truck. Okay, the game starts. It's medieval. There are people in like suits of armor, and it's like ancient villages, and there's a big battle, and then all of a sudden there's a pickup truck driving through a city. He goes through a portal, ends up back in the time, and he just starts driving through a bunch of these guys in the suits of armor, and then he steps out with the handgun and just shoots one. It's insane. I think this is one of the best video game trailers I've ever seen, and I bet it'll be a pretty decent time. Apparently it has co-op online, all this stuff. That's gonna be a fun time. So yeah,
I am glad you put me onto this. This is hilarious. I love the complete merging of two worlds that technically wouldn't make sense, and then put it together. And again, it's giving me. Have you ever played this game, Chivalry 2?
Chivalry, yeah, absolutely.
Right,
yes.
Which is just hilarious. But now in a modern person in that, port, the fact that he got the trailer on the gun or horseback is hilarious. I'm done. This is hilarious. I'm definitely thank you for putting me onto this.
Like the kind of thing where someone was playing Chivalry, and it's like, wouldn't it be cool if we had a mod where I could just like bring my truck in here and just mess people up? Yeah. And then all of a sudden, like now at the very end of the trailer, he's in the future. I don't know.
Bro.
There's something happening here. This game looks really cool.
I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in. Thank you for this one.
Me too. Yes, I saw it yesterday, and people were like, "This is the crazy trailer," and I started it, and I'm like, with City Builder, whatever. And I like stopped watching. And then today, Dan was telling me, hey, no, watch that. It really does go places. I'm glad I found it. But yeah, we'll see. It comes out 2024. It's going to be an early access. I'm looking forward to it. Over on Destructoid, Zoe Hanley, who wrote the headline for this, said it's called it an isekai, which is like the Japanese thing for like, like a kid in King Arthur's court, or like someone from one timeline going to another timeline and stuff like that. And something about that where it's like, this is an isekai, like kind of an anime manga thing. Mm-hmm. I'm like, this just feels like someone being a jackass and making a fun game for the hell of it. It does not feel like the person that made this would ever say the word isekai, but I still like that.
100% agree. This person having a ball. They're having a
good time.
Oh, yeah, this team's having a blast.
All right. Let's see here. We have a poll question from yesterday. Let's get to that. Are you going to try at least one of Hi-Fi Rush, Pentiment, Grounded, or Sea of Thieves on PS5 and Switch? I am going to vote yes. And 33% of people said yes, 22% said no, and 46% said I already played those games on Xbox and PC, and so basically they abstained. More people than not are interested in this, though, in terms of like, hey, if you haven't played them before, is this a good thing for you? Yeah, 33% versus 22%, and that's not too surprising. Many of these are very good games.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think what it is, let's be honest, a lot of people, once they're in an ecosystem, they're kind of married to it, right? Whether it be Nintendo and PlayStation. And I think it's one of those situations that once they see the game on their platform, and if there was a curiosity, it's going to be satiated. People are going to try it. And then there's the new audience. And I had a question for you. What do you think in reference to, I thought maybe they would wait, like in terms of Switch 2. Potential Super Switch, but these looks like they're coming to base Switch.
Yeah, I mean, I they didn't say anything about Sea of Thieves. I think I could still see that one going to the Switch too. I thought Hi-Fi Rush might even wait, but we'll see if that, like now it's getting announced for PS5, maybe that still does get announced for Switch too. But if that doesn't run at 60 frames per second, that's a rhythm game that kind of requires that. I bet they do be like, actually, let's pull the plug on that and wait and see. So,
that's why I thought technical. Yeah,
I mean, Switch 2. That's coming out in March of next year, reportedly now. So it's going to be a ways out. And if you're Microsoft, if you can get it run on Switch, just go for it. That has 135 million units out there. You're going to probably sell pretty well. So why not go for it?
That is true. Very well said.
I have a new poll question. We'll get to that here in a second. But before we do that, Cog, why don't you tell people where they can find you on the internet, what you have going on, all that good stuff?
No doubt. Yeah. So at Lord Cognito on Twitter, of the Iron Lords podcast. Every Sunday is the Lord's Day. We usually go 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, rocking out, talking about all the latest game news. Lord King, Lord Addict, Lord Solve, my brothers. Just
shout out to all of them.
Shout out to all of them. Again, it was cool to see you when we pulled up. You know what I'm saying? and your panel, that was so dope.
Yeah, that was awesome. I'm really glad you guys came out for that.
Absolutely. I also do Define Duke, Mr. Matty Plays, again, Xbox Focus podcast. And then with Ebontis and Ty Guy Travis of IGN, I do The Last Word, which is our Destiny Focus podcast. And that's usually on Thursdays on Ebontis' channel. But yeah, man, I just love the podcast. And shout out to you at the Dillo. I mentioned I got to see at the New York Game Awards. We presented out there. And we're just trying to do different things and keep growing the brand and the podcast. And also shout out to lordsofgaming.net. That's our site and our media platform with news, reviews, all types of opinion pieces, and shout out to the team over there that really puts out the work. And I get to look good and take credit.
Hey, that's part of the hustle, right? Yeah. You guys are out there. You guys are always trying to make it happen, and I always appreciate that because that's the only way anything gets done is if you go out there and do it yourself. And I think you guys subscribe to that, and I appreciate that. I recognize it.
Thank you. Thank you.
New poll question. What grade would you give the Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase? A, B, C, D, or F? We'll have that up on youtube.com/giantbomb. Underneath the community tab there, you'll be able to find that, and we will discuss it on Game Mess mornings here on Giant Bomb tomorrow morning. Speaking of Giant Bomb, what do we have happening later today? Blight Club returns. Mike Minotti will be going back into Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero. He might beat it. I've never seen anyone beat this game before, Cog. He's gotten very deep into it, and he's kind of got the hang of it. So that game is a magical, really just a piece of crap, and it's kind of amazing in every way. So we're really enjoying that. That'll happen at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. Everybody tune in. That's the normal time for Blight Club. We will also have Voicemail Dump Truck, UPF this week. Might play some old Super Mario Maker stuff since that's about to go offline. Might spend some time with that, and maybe I'll fit some Helldivers in there if that game's going to work. We'll figure it out.
If you get on them servers.
Yeah, get them on them servers. That's a good game.
I know. I'm just waiting to it to settle, and then I'm in.
Also, we have a special episode of Bombcast Revengeance tomorrow. Who knows why we made it on Thursday instead of Friday? I guess you'll have to tune in to find out. All right, Cog, thank you so much for spending today talking with me about video games, man. I deeply appreciate it.
Yo, love Grubb, man. Love what you do. I love that we get a chance to interact and work with each other. The energy is dope. Community is super cool. And I just love that you love games. You know, that's one thing that always resonates with you. And your energy has always been A1, man. So when I got the call, I said, I got to come through the realm of the mess. You know, it's not that bad around here, though. It's not that bad.
We'll definitely get you back on. You were a great guest, and get the rest of the Lords on as well. I love those guys.
Absolutely.
So we'll make that happen. Thank you again. Thank you, everybody, for watching. You're one of the best audiences in gaming. In fact, you're the best. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.